hello, good morning, and happy Thursday, June the 12th. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI Show for short, because we bring you way too much information. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. We have the formatting of the show going the other way today. We have a guest on standby here to talk about an interesting case that you may or may not have heard about from a couple of years ago. It was ongoing for many years, which is about Happy the elephant over at the Bronx Zoo. And she's a documentary filmmaker. So about this particular topic. So we're going to bring her on in just a moment. We're trying to figure out some audio issues. So hopefully that's been sorted out, but we'll see. In the meantime, make sure you guys hit the like and the subscribe, the follow buttons, all of that, the thumbs up. Go ahead and do that for us to help us grow this little channel, because we bring it to you live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. It would help a great deal if, especially you, I'm talking to you people on YouTube, you're watching, just hit the subscribe button. We're short for our next metric. We're short just like, I don't know, like 200 followers or something like that to hit the next metric. So get up on it. Hit the plus. Hit the thumbs up button, plus or whatever. No, it's a thumbs up, and follow, subscribe. All right. So without too much further ado, Ted, I think we'll get to headline news after the guest. Guest is on the first half right now. Ted, you want to tell? Do we
have a sound check, or I mean?
Yeah, we can bring her on. Let me hit the jaws.
Sorry for the clunkitude, but let's just see how this goes. All right, Nancy, say something so we know you're not echoing.
Hello, nice to be
much
here.
Better.
Good.
Audio fix.
Good. All right, that's the
audio
voice
fix on my phone.
That's the voice of Nancy Cecil. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist, documentary filmmaker, documentary photographer, and filmmaker. She's a former staff photographer for the New York Times. Her first documentary, Escape Artists, The Tale of Mike Jr. and Freddie, was funded in part by the Brooklyn Arts Council and the New York State Council for the Arts. The documentary premiered at DOC NYC in 2022 and has gone on to screen domestically and internationally. The film screened in March 2025 at the Fauna Animal Film Festival, and I will never be able to pronounce this right, in Tepoztlan,
yes.
Mexico.
Tepoztlan.
Wow.
That took me a while too.
All right, where it won a Domingo Award. So this movie concerns the Happy the Elephant lawsuit, which was initiated by a group called the Nonhuman Rights Project on behalf of an Asian elephant at the Bronx Zoo who's been there since 1977. Her name is Happy. So the NhRP filed a habeas petition back in 2018, making the, I would say, legally novel argument that Happy, who had been alone, and so elephants are famously social, since 2006, since the death of her companion partner, Grumpy, is being unlawfully imprisoned because she's isolated and her space is way too small. The group highlighted her self-awareness. That was a test. She passed a mirror self-recognition test in 2005. That's something that animal biologists say indicates that, you know, she knows who she is, that she knows she knows what and who she is, as sort of the way we do, as evidence of her autonomy, and argued that she deserved legal personhood and the right to bodily autonomy. The zoo, unsurprisingly, fought tooth and nail. This case went all the way up to New York State's highest court, which is the Court of Appeals. Ultimately, they said that habeas only applies to human beings, not to animals, even though the court did acknowledge that elephants are very intelligent. There were dissenting judges. This was a 5-2 ruling, which I think is super interesting and shows some hope for the future. Animal rights, of course, are the core of this whole thing. Very famously, there have been some other cases around the world where animal rights have been more recognized. In Colombia, 4 years ago, a U.S. federal court recognized a community of hippos. That's a famous community of hippos that were descended from Pablo Escobar's herd of hippos as, quote, interested persons under a statute supporting a Colombian lawsuit to use contraception rather than killing them. That's a milestone in animal legal status. In Pakistan, the Islamabad High Court, that's the highest court in the nation's capital, said that animals do have legal rights under the Pakistani constitution, specifically relating to a chained elephant, but we don't know about how other animals. And in India, this is maybe the most sweeping case. In 2018, the Uttarakhand High Court, this would only be in one state in India, declared all animals in the animal kingdom, this would even include insects, as legal entities with rights, duties, and liabilities, following a case on horse transportation. This ruling later on went down in front of the Indian National Supreme Court. But so I think that one's sort of the status of animals in that particular Indian state are kind of nebulous at this point. But anyway, Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Nancy, tell us a little bit about Happy the Elephant, why you became interested in this case, and tell us about your movie.
I found out about this case from, I guess I get a lot of animal stories on Facebook because I'm inclined that way. And I think it was an article in the Post saying that this case had started in February 2020, and there would be another day of hearings at Bronx Supreme Court. So at that time, I was working on Escape Artists, but I thought, wow, I'm just going to go over there and try to film in the courtroom just in case I wanted to make a film about this. And I had press credentials, and I asked the judge, and she said no, that she wouldn't allow me to film, which is interesting because there's no, there's no sensitivity in terms of the plaintiff. Anyway, but I sat in the courthouse anyway, in the courtroom anyway, and listened to the testimony. And then I decided that I definitely wanted to do a film about her. And then I guess 1 month later, in March 2020 was, of course, the COVID lockdown. So nothing proceeded. Even the zoo was closed for, probably 6 months or something. So then I started to go and see her when the zoo opened on the monorail. That's the only way that you can see Happy. There's literally no physical contact at all.
There's no exhibit. So if I go to the Bronx Zoo, I can't see her?
No.
You can't walk up to
the
elephant.
No.
What's the point of having her there if people can't see her?
Well, that's exactly it. And I've actually timed it. You go by on a monorail. They don't slow down. And it's about 45 seconds. Oh. And I've gone so much that I really notice people's reactions. And even kids, like before you see her, you see a red panda, and kids go crazy over the red panda, even though the red panda
is the small one, right?
Yeah, red panda is a small one, and it's generally sleeping in the tree.
Right.
But, because there's a Disney movie about a red panda, I think that's the reason. Children appreciate that. And Happy doesn't move. She just really just stands there. And she's nothing like an elephant that you would see, like I saw in Thailand in a sanctuary. Just nothing like that.
So her enclosure from the videos that we're playing here of passers-by, I guess that's the best way we can frame that is, they're literally passers-by. Her enclosure looks fairly small, and she, you cruise right past her.
Right.
And she's alone there. She doesn't look too happy.
She is. And it's 1.5 acres that she shares. The whole exhibit is 1.5 acres, and she shares that, separated by a steel gate from the other elephant that's there, Patty.
Is she related or bonded to the other elephant at all?
No, and they feel like they wouldn't get along because the incident that I was referring to was in my Kickstarter was that when Happy and Grumpy were brought to the zoo, they were put with Patty and Maxine, 2 other elephants that were there. And while Happy was somewhere else, Patty and Maxine attacked grumpy, and she fell over, and she actually they euthanized her from her injuries.
Oh, wow.
So they feel like, obviously Happy heard this incident, and so they've always felt that they wouldn't get along because of this, because of losing her beloved companion.
Yeah, elephants are famously pair bonded that way.
Exactly.
What is obviously this argument of must have come up in court. What did the Bronx Zoo, as defendants in this case, how did they justify wanting to keep her in captivity, even though her contact with the public is so ephemeral?
Well, not only that, the Bronx Zoo is, as all the zoos are in New York City, is managed by the Wildlife Conservation Society. So it was, the Wildlife Conservation Society and the Bronx Zoo versus Happy and the Nonhuman Rights Project. And they didn't have a single elephant expert give an affidavit to support their case. They had none. They had vets who work for the zoo.
You attribute that to, did they just not take the case seriously, or did they just not have a good defense?
As far as I was concerned, they didn't have a good defense if you don't have that. And the Non-Human Rights Project had that, saying that these elephants shouldn't be there, that's not a life for them, and they fought it to the bitter end. And a part of it probably is that they don't want to be told what to do, what.
Well, this completely questions their entire model, right? I mean, if animals have habeas rights, then any animal, theoretically, at least any sentient, all animals are sentient, but, and sentient in the way that, in 2025, liberal people identify it, any sentient animal, any member of the cat or canine family, for example, in the zoo would be, theoretically, this would apply to them, right?
Right. It would. Their case was completely based on, what would happen to the dairy industry in New York State if we gave, then all animals could likely get personhood. And what would happen to the whole dairy industry would fall apart.
Can you explain personhood?
The slippery slope, exactly.
Explain personhood. In other words, are we talking about the kind of personhood we commonly understand that, if there was a war, the animal could be drafted, it could collect Social Security, it can vote in elections, or are we talking about something else?
It's legal personhood. That's the distinction. So,
what's the distinction?
The distinction is that legally, as you know, after Citizens United, a corporation is a person. It's not a thing. We may think of that, think of a corporation as a thing, but legally, a corporation is a person and has the rights of a person. There's a river in New Zealand that's a person. There's a ship that's a person. And if those things are persons, then how can Happy be considered a thing? Because she is, under the eyes of the law, because they weren't able to get habeas corpus for Happy to be declared a person.
I'm about to walk out onto a delicate limb here, but I think you probably can know where I'm going here. Under slavery, right? Enslaved blacks were not considered people or full people under the law. They were property in the same way. People could take out slave equity loans on their slaves and borrow against their value. They could insure them, in the same way we insure a car in case something happened to your slave. You could get replacement value for your slave. All that kind of thing. Is this an outlandish? Some people are going to say this is outlandish because it just doesn't feel right. Other people will say, maybe we just haven't gotten there yet as a society, but we will get there because it's the next logical step.
I think that's what, you mentioned that there were two judges that dissented. And I know one of them, if not both, but I'm more familiar with his dissent judge. He's now the chief judge. He wasn't at the time. Kathy Hochul made him chief judge of the New York State Court of Appeals, because we didn't mention that they lost in the lower court and then they appealed, and they amazingly got an appeal, and unfortunately the appeal failed also. But he was very strong.
How come they didn't appeal to SCOTUS at that point?
Don't you first appeal to the highest court in the state?
Yeah, but they lost. They
right. They could have then. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was a money thing. They are working with others.
Or maybe SCOTUS refused to hear the case. I mean,
it's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. I know they tried to, based on the dissent, they tried to appeal the appeal, but they didn't get anywhere with that. So, but the appeal is really interesting, and Judge Wilson mentioned this kind of argument about slaves, and and also like over time, things will change, but it's terrible that it isn't changing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's dumb, right? Like, if you know something's wrong, why wait for everybody to be ready? Just put it to an end.
Right.
I mean,
why does it have to go to this length?
Well,
why?
I mean, so in Africa and in Asia, where elephants live, they have ranges naturally of many thousands of square miles, right? In the natural world, not like 1.5 acres, which is basically the size of a modest middle-class house yard in the suburbs. There's so many things I wanted to get into here. So an elephant, why? So we can all sort of get this case, like, why an elephant, right? They're widely recognized as super intelligent, long memories, social. We can relate to them.
They mourn the loss of their herd members, their babies.
Yes.
They live a long time. That also kind of enters into it. We can relate to them. We don't other them as much, and they're cute and cool. And
they're big.
But really, truly, should we be able to treat a centipede like shit? I mean,
I didn't catch that. Should we be able to?
Should we? I mean, so we like elephants, but should we be able to treat centipedes like shit? Should there be a hierarchy?
We squash bugs.
Of living things. I mean, it's totally. We can kill rats, no problem. I mean, the mayor campaigns on that. But you can't kill. I mean, it's like you can't kill dogs and cats. That's wrong because we like those. Mice, no problem.
Well, Kristi Noem did,
Yeah,
so.
she did. Although she's insane. But
But I think we understand that, like our pets, we want to give them the best life,
right,
that they can have. We don't want to see them suffering, and she's so obvious.
Oh, there you are. Wait, I think you're muted though, Nancy.
You're muted. We can't hear you, Nancy. Nancy, put on your volume.
Nancy, can you hear us? You're muted.
Oh my God.
Nancy.
Nancy, you're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you. We cannot
hear you.
Cannot hear you at all. There's some
You're
button.
Muted. On your phone. The phone went to mute.
Your phone. It's on your phone. Maybe you tapped the screen or something.
Touch the screen. Yeah, I saw the screen wipe.
Yeah. Still can't hear you.
I don't know if it's an iPhone. Do we know? iPhone? Yeah. Touch the screen again and see if the mute button's on.
Touch the screen.
I think she can hear us, though.
I think she can.
She can hear us. We can't hear her.
We can't hear her. More importantly, that we could hear her than she could hear us, but we... Yeah,
maybe the headphone, take off the headphones?
Yeah, maybe just take off the headphones. Just unplug. Just do it by phone.
Let's see. I don't hear anything yet.
I still don't hear. No, it's on the phone. It's the phone.
It's on the phone, which is
weird. The phone
is
muted.
She was totally fine a second ago or a moment ago. Let's see if we get Nancy back. But
all right, let's show
Nancy. Look at all this B-roll.
Why don't
this B-roll that I have from the Bronx Zoo.
Let's talk about this. So, I mean,
but look, this is it's on a cable. It looks. I mean, I've never been to the Bronx Zoo, but it looks like all the viewers, or I don't know, the visitors are on a freaking cable car.
Yeah,
I've
that's right.
never seen anything like that for a zoo. You would
I
think
have.
they'd
Like in Florida,
really?
there's like wildlife sanctuaries that sort of show it that do that, where you go over like the gator ponds and stuff. I mean,
Well, I
obviously
get
it's
a
not, you
gator
can't walk
pond,
around down there.
but like, so here's this elephant. Like, I was just at the National Zoo very recently, just a few weeks ago, and they don't have a very big enclosure either for the elephants there. And this is a National Zoo, the Smithsonian Zoo,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a huge zoo. But like the elephants, given their size, I see Nancy's back. Let's try Nancy again.
How's it?
Hey Nancy,
Am I back?
Yes.
there you are. Yes, I was just
Okay.
saying at the National Zoo here in DC, the elephant enclosure, I would venture to say, is no more than like an acre and a half to 2.
Right.
And there are like 2 or 3 elephants there at the National Zoo, and they don't have any natural grass growing. There's no like natural, like there's no, everything is a very contrived environment for them.
Right.
There's nothing natural about their environment, and it always makes me sad. And I think those are Asian elephants too, because they have the smaller ears.
Right.
So, and you can't really get that close to them, but given that they have like 3 elephants in maybe 2 acres, I mean, people can walk, and we're still a great distance from them, but it's still kind of depressing to see, because they're Asian elephants, and they've created like this fake dry climate for them, which is really weird. There's no greenery.
That's not what they would have. They normally
That's not what
live
Asia
in a jungle
No.
environment, very lush.
Right.
And not to
This,
mention,
like,
elephants
no
need
sense.
to fuck with trees. It's one of their things.
There's
right?
no trees at the National Zoo. I mean, Happy's environment is a little better than the National Zoo's environment for the
It
elephants.
sounds like it, yeah, because
But-
there are trees.
Yeah, there's at least green
I give them that.
trees. So, but
And what about, there's a climate issue too, right? Nobody ever talks about. I mean, yeah, New York is warmer than it used to, but
Right.
Elephants don't live in New York for a reason, right? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but it's not the temperature is wrong for them. They live in much warmer places than New York and Washington.
Right. So that's what I was saying. So it's only open. This Wild Asia monorail is only open from May through early November. So about 6 months of the year. They're in way worse conditions. They're in a concrete barn for 6 months.
Yep.
Heated,
And-
right?
Oh God.
Yeah, heated barn.
So they're like in
this
elephant Guantanamo for
exactly. So this is what they're holding on to for dear life. And I just feel like people have to know about this. There was a lot of press when there was the court case, but when the court case ended, the conversation ended basically.
All right.
Right.
Well, so that's one court case. That's one elephant. There's 50 states. I mean,
Right.
there's-
They're working on.
and there's
In
new
fact, in
situations,
California,
right?
in
Yeah.
Los Angeles, they just filed suit on behalf of Billy and Tina. And you'll appreciate this, Ted, with your experience with LA courts. They tried to file on behalf of these 2 elephants 5 times, and they weren't allowed to file. And then on the 6th time, they filed. So what they were doing was they were sending them to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I guess because they decided they couldn't take care of them. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they were sending them to Tulsa, another place that has a lot of elephants and not a lot of land, much more than LA, but per elephant, not a lot. And they wanted, the Nonhuman Rights Project wanted them to go to a sanctuary. And at 1 a.m. or 1:30, something like that, they got them in a truck and they sent them to Tulsa.
They treated him like Abrego Garcia. Just
Yes.
the bums rush.
Like
It was
once
nice.
they
Get
filed,
these
once they,
elephants out of state.
yes, once they filed the lawsuit, once on the 6th time, once they were able to file the lawsuit,
Talk
boom,
about the
gone.
elephant in the room, or not in the state.
Wow.
In this
Not
case.
not in the state anymore. Exactly. Yeah. So there
That's-
wouldn't be any protesters. And actually Cher had gotten involved and had protested the way that they were being treated and that they should also go to a sanctuary. So
okay, that was, you answered my question. I was going to say, after over 50 years in captivity for Happy,
right.
where would she go next if she did win any sort of I don't know, a change in her situation, which she would then go to a sanctuary, not go to the wild.
I mean, she could sue again under a different theory.
No, she would go to a no. Manila's asking, like, where would she go? So she can't go back to Thailand because, you know, probably her age and it's too far. She would probably go to the elephant sanctuary in Tennessee, where there's 2,000 acres. She could hang out with who she wants to hang out with or not. However she wants to live her life, she could live her life among other elephants in a huge space. Because they have, if you look this up, if you go to the site, they have elephant cam. And honestly, you rarely see elephants because there's a wide space for them to cover, and they don't always, you know, appear on camera. So that's probably where she would go. There's another place in California, which is called Performing Animal Welfare Society, and that's another sanctuary, but that's farther, of course.
So Nancy, you have a Kickstarter?
Kickstarter, yeah.
For this movie, it's called Happy in the Bronx. So people should search for Happy. Go to Kickstarter and go to Happy in the Bronx and support this project. You know, so what is the? Tell us about the film, and then you know, before we let you go, like,
okay.
What you know? What was your take?
What are you trying to accomplish? Robbie's got a question for Nancy.
Robbie's our producer.
So I'm gonna pop Robbie in there.
Okay. Hi, Robbie.
Howdy. No, just a quick question. I mean, one thing I was thinking. I think that zoos should just be banned. I don't really see the point of them.
You're right.
I mean, just to be completely honest with you. The concern that I have with personhood, you know, for animals is I live here in Montana and people like cute animals. Well, here in Montana, we have lots of cute animals called cows. And so we eat them. And so the concern is that I have, if animals start getting personhood, then could lawsuits be brought, say, hey, you know, you're murdering these cows. You can't eat them. Is that a viable concern, or am I just completely off the reservation here?
I mean, that was the argument that the zoo, that's exactly the argument that the zoo made. They said it with dairy, that, you know, that we would make the dairy industry collapse in New York State if cows also got personhood. So, you know, that's
like, stay off my tits.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid concern, right? Because if you open this Pandora's box, where does it stop?
Right.
I just seems like to me, just closing zoos just makes more sense than making
giving animals.
Yeah. The argument for zoos, which I've always thought was weak, was the educational component. Like, oh, people get to understand about the natural environment by seeing animals up close.
But we have the
most unnatural environment.
In the most unnatural environment, right? But it's like with her, like, what are you really seeing? You know,
right.
These are like stereotypical behaviors. She stands there and she rock back and forth. It's extremely depressing. Every time I go, and I probably will go next week. I can only go on free day because I don't want to spend any more money. You have to pay $7 even on free day to go on the monorail. Wow. But yeah, so I don't want to monetarily, and the zoo is like $40. It's incredibly expensive, and also I should add, it's one of the poorest.
You get snacks.
It's what, yeah, exactly, and you will, because, you know,
it's big, and you get hot. Yeah,
you get hot, you get hungry, you get thirsty.
It's a long walk.
Yeah, so you know, it's a lot of revenue for them. I mean, I can't see any other reason why they would keep them. You know, no humane reason, that's for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's obviously very exploitative to the animals, and
it's cruel.
It is
needlessly
cruel. Like this
cruel.
Poor girl.
Yeah,
this poor thing. Yeah. So now, like Ted said, before we let you go, tell us about your film and how they can support you and all of that good stuff, and where they can find you.
Well, Kickstarter, of course. I don't know. Can you guys pop in the link for that?
Yeah.
In the chat?
Yeah. Tell me the link. I'll pop it on the screen.
Oh God. it. I should have
just-
sent it to you before.
They go to Kickstarter.
Kickstarter and they just
Kickstarter.com.
look up the way this is my name. There's a way it's spelled as like Cecil, like Diesel, except with an S. It's German.
Siesel.
Siesel, right?
Or Happy
just
the Elephant, I imagine. Or Happy in the Bronx.
Or Happy in the Happy. There's probably a lot of happy
Happy in the Bronx.
content, but
Right.
Happy in the Bronx is the name of the film.
Not that many people
yeah,
are
we're
happy in the Bronx. So
We're trying to raise money to finish the film quickly. My last film took me 8 years to get enough funding to finish it because I'm a photojournalist. I'm not making a lot of money, if any. So, and I have to, pay people. So, yeah, so that's the point of like doing this, trying to do it quickly and raise the money and get this out there, have community screenings, hope to get into Doc NYC again. And yeah, show this to the people of New York City.
Yeah, raise
should also-
awareness.
Raise awareness. I should also mention quickly that my city council person, who's now being primaried, unfortunately, introduced an elephant ban bill in city council, and she introduced it twice. They never voted on it because you have to get co-sponsors in order to bring it to a vote. But unfortunately, she's being primaried. I hope she's going to win. But anyway, if that passes city council, elephants would have to have 15 acres, and they don't have 15 acres. Obviously, they
Right.
don't even have that at the zoo to spare. So I think then they would be going to Tennessee. So the legislative possibility is another way to solve this. And if people know about it, then they can call their city council person and say, write to their city council person and say, support this. It's only right. It's only fair. And I'm finding that a lot of people who message me are saying that exact thing. So hopefully it'll be successful.
okay.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we will post a link to your Kickstarter and everything into the bio and when this becomes a video, when it's no
Right.
longer live,
Right.
so that way people can see how they can help and support. Help Happy. Like this is so sad, and I would say to anybody else, since we're on the subject, is people really ought to look at the conditions. I mean, not that the National Zoo isn't beautiful and much bigger, it sounds like, than the Bronx Zoo. But if you look at the elephant enclosure, it is sad and depressing. And, they built a bridge over the elephant enclosure so people can kind of like look over and down as the elephants cross under. But then you got kids throwing crap into it's awful. And they just shouldn't be there. It's in this like clay. It looks like a giant terracotta environment.
Oh my
And
God.
people really ought to see what the National Zoo conditions are like for like 3 elephants. It's very, very sad. It looks nothing like Happy's looks much better than what's going on at the National Zoo. And the National Zoo makes a gajillion dollars with, with donors, people that want their names on, park benches and
Right.
what have
Right.
you. But the elephant enclosures, while it's beautiful for humans, it's a shit environment for the elephants. It's
Right.
very sad.
Right. I mean, it's beautiful. The Bronx Zoo is a beautiful park. Have birds and turtles and fish and, things that can live better lives than they would live, even in a city park, and it is a beautiful park, but it isn't a place for most animals, I would say.
Yeah, especially not a large one like this. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
No.
post a link.
The largest land
when
mammal.
this becomes a video.
She shouldn't
The
be living
largest
like that.
land animal. That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
The
So
largest.
it's very, very sad. We'll try to see if we can help you get some links to your Kickstarter. We'll put that in the video when this
Great.
becomes a video a little bit later today,
Mhm.
and hopefully we can help you make an impact because I'm an animal. We're all animal lovers on this show,
Yes.
For sure.
and this is so sad, so depressing. I remember this case covering it, doing news, and I wondered where it was going to go. And like you said, it fell out of the news cycle, and
Mhm. Right.
it's just
And-
not there.
And now there's no concern or interest or anything. And, now actually New Yorkers do care and they are interested if they have the
If this were on
information.
the ballot, right? Like if this were a ballot initiative,
Yeah.
should this elephant stay at the Bronx Zoo or should this elephant be sent to a sanctuary in Tennessee? It would pass overwhelmingly.
It would pass.
Overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
I bet it.
Yeah.
I doubt that it would like get under 80%.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's why most city council members don't know about it. I mean, there are ones in the Bronx that are probably getting money from the zoo, but other than that, most people don't know about her.
Yeah.
And this situation.
Yeah, I forgot about Happy. So I'm glad.
I mean,
that
it's like I had flashbacks to back in the 1980s when I first came to New York. There were still big animals at the Central Park Zoo, which is a tiny zoo.
Wow.
It's basically like it's a zoo that you would expect to find in a small town in the South or something. It's just like so tiny, and they had like big ass animals like giraffes in like these cages that they could barely move around. I mean, it was horrid.
How sad.
Yeah.
They had an elephant there too, I think, and also in Prospect Park Zoo.
Oh, I mean, that elephant was like basically
was
like
that horrible? I've
like
seen
basically
pictures.
like in a cell.
Right. In a cell. A barren cell.
Yeah, with just bars, old school. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sad.
I mean, at a certain point, people were just like, there were so many complaints that they put an end to it. Now it's a pretty decent park. That's a decent zoo. I mean, relatively. There's seals, that kind of thing.
Right.
Although seals are smart and they shouldn't be there either.
Well, yeah, they shouldn't. Dolphins, smart. I don't think they have dolphins, but
they don't have dolphins.
They probably do at the aquarium, which is also run by the Wildlife Conservation Society.
By the way,
Conservation Society.
It's so really interesting thing before I let you go, Nancy. Years ago, I think this was about 25 years ago, and there's sometimes the video pops up on YouTube. There was a very famously depressed polar bear at the Central Park Zoo that had an indoor out. It had a water section and a above ground section, and it was famously depressed. It basically went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all day. Exactly the same motions. It would swim down to the bottom part where you could see it underwater, and then push against the glass, turn around, go back. Same exact repetitive motion. There was a lot of controversy about it. And ultimately, the bear kind of resolved things himself. So what happened is this is hilarious. It's like The Far Side. Some little girl was in the room, in the underground room, and she inexplicably was wearing a hat in the shape of a seal.
What?
And it's like, who has a seal hat? Anyway, the bear stops cold, like, holy shit, and just smacked the glass.
Oh no.
And the glass, there's like 15 feet of water there. The glass broke. All the water comes, people, bear, seal hat, all whoosh out of the exhibit. Bear is on the loose in the Central Park. In the Central Park Zoo, I guess this was.
Yeah.
And the bear was loose for like, I don't know, 45 minutes until they were able to, thank God they didn't have to kill it. But
oh my God.
It cracked me up to no end to see the video. And then they were like, well, this isn't really safe or really a good idea. So I think they like offloaded the bear somewhere else. Also big land predators who, have massive ranges and are super intelligent.
Right.
Don't fuck.
I wonder what happened to the bear.
I don't know. I think the bear ended up in somewhere
honestly,
not as bad. But
probably sent him to another zoo because they don't want to give up their animals to a sanctuary. They don't want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of nerve though. I mean, we're prey to polar bears. I mean, really.
Yeah, actually that's true. That's lucky that, nobody got hurt, especially the girl with the seal hat.
I think the video is to die because everything is just like whoosh. It's like, that's comedy. It's
amazing.
Well, crazy story.
Anyway,
well, let's keep happy in the news.
As the tigress at the San Francisco Zoo. I love that story.
Yeah, we got to keep happy in the news, right. and anybody that's an animal lover, please go, if you're in the position, help Nancy finish her film, Happy in the Bronx.
Finish the film. Yeah, how many more days are left on the Kickstarter?
21.
Okay, that's not a long time.
We're trying to reach 5,000 by this weekend.
Go and donate. It's not that much money if enough people do it. All right.
If enough people do it, a couple bucks, throw in a couple bucks.
Yeah. And it's all or nothing. We should add that. All or nothing.
Oh, in other words, if you don't get there, if you don't make the goal, you don't get a penny.
Right.
So It's
That's the
not
way
like a
Kickstarter
grift,
works.
like a GoFundMe, where it's like, oh, like we got, I needed
Right.
$20,000. I got $6,000. I couldn't. That wasn't enough to do my project.
Right,
So I spent the
No,
$6,000 on,
Oh,
I get
see.
nada. So they don't
Vacation.
charge the credit card
They
unless
refund the other
you
people.
make your goal.
Okay.
Well, it's not even refunding. They don't charge it until you make your goal.
Oh, I
So
see.
that's the way.
So it's a
Kickstarter.
pledge. It's
Ted-
really a pledge.
Pledge. It's a pledge, right?
Yeah.
Ted has done it, and he's been successful.
I have done it. Yeah.
So I'm listening to him telling me that I should be more on social media.
Gotta.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people love Americans love animals, so I think it's a great cause.
All right.
So,
All right.
Nancy Cecil.
Diesel, like Diesel.
Diesel is a
Like
Pulitzer
Diesel,
Prize
except with an
winning
S.
photojournalist, documentary filmmaker, photographer, and filmmaker. Thanks for joining us, Nancy.
Thank you for inviting
so
me.
much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
All right.
Oh, that's so sad. I'm sad. Like I love big animals. So anyway, I'm gonna hit the jaws, and we'll get to the news.
Yeah, we have a lot of news. Air India flight carrying 242 passengers and crew members crashed shortly after takeoff in the western Indian city of Ahmedabad. That happened earlier today. There's no immediate information about any survivors, but India's health minister said many people had died. I would doubt that there were any survivors based on the footage of the wreckage.
Everybody. So yeah, all the news is coming out. It's all the
Everyone's
passengers,
dead.
crew, everyone's
And
dead,
there's people on the ground too.
in the building. They
the-
crashed into a medical college, and we don't know yet how many.
The plane departed at 1:38 p.m. local time, headed for London's Gatwick Airport, crashed into the dining hall at the local medical school, as Manila said. At least 5 students died, according to the dean of the college. Photos of the crash site and footage show plumes of black smoke coming from the wreckage, firefighters dousing charred residential buildings. The tail of the plane was hanging out of a damaged building. So this was a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner, a big plane carrying 169 Indian citizens, 53 Brits, 73 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian. Injured people were taken to hospitals, but it was unclear. Well, they were on the ground. The plane left Sandar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport. The airport shut down temporarily, and it had been due to arrive in London at 6:25 p.m.
Well, Ted, had they not crashed into the medical college and just the building next door, they would have been right there. People could have helped them. There's like medical students there. So
right.
Horrible irony.
Oh my God.
Horrible irony. Like I get you're trying to get to help immediately, but there was a Mayday call from my understanding. They haven't recovered the black box yet. They don't. I mean, it's amazing that. Here's the weird thing, Ted, and I'm going to bring up some 9/11 truther shit. So everybody in Rumble, get your antennas up. So this is a big ass Boeing 787 Dreamliner. This is like one of the newer models.
Fully loaded with fuel.
This is like the Cadillac of Boeing planes, right? Like this is like the brand new Cadillac of Boeing.
Well, isn't that
jets.
kind of an oxymoron at this point?
What, the Cadillac?
Cadillac of Boeing?
Yes. The
at
Cadillac.
This point,
well,
it's like
this is like their top.
It's
top
the best
brand,
sell at Guantanamo,
line.
you know.
This is like the top trim level, top model that Boeing
It's brand new.
made, which isn't saying much. I'm just saying. But
It
nonetheless,
used to.
this is supposed to be like their top thing. But here's the thing. How does this big ass modern jet full of roughly 250 people crash into an Indian medical college building? This is not the Trade Center. This is not New York's Trade Center. This is a medical college. And look, that's what the building looks like. And that's what the building looks like. Why did this building not come tumbling down? Why are we going to find strewn passports all over the place?
First of all, well, okay, so if we're going to go truther style here, right?
I'm going truther here.
All right, so the World Trade Center was completely different construction than most people are familiar with, right? So it was something called hanging curtain construction. So the best way to think about it is the 4 corners of the building were like the support rods, and then the top had they were connected equivalently by 4 support rods. Think of a square with like the rods hanging down. I'm radically simplifying this, okay? And basically the floors are suspended between these 4 rods. That's not at all the kind of construction that most buildings employ. For example, back in the 1940s, I think it was a B-29, if memory serves, a military plane that struck the Empire State Building, and it killed a bunch of people. But obviously the Empire State Building is still there, and people are like, after 9/11, said, well, how come one came tumbling down and the other one didn't? And the reason is because the Empire State Building was built with 8 redundant support systems. The World Trade Center was not, and hanging curtain construction was controversial at the time of construction in the mid 60s for that reason. It was always thought that at some point a plane that they thought might be lost on the way to Idlewild Airport, as it was JFK was called at the time, might in fog strike the World Trade Center, and that the whole thing would come tumbling down. In civil engineering class in the early 80s at Columbia, I studied this, and we knew, that this would probably, if the World Trade Center were ever struck by a plane, it would likely come down. And so it's like, in fact, I have a witness, the guy I was hanging out with on 9/11, when we were watching the towers.
This is what
burn.
they taught you, Ted? Like when you were still doing that, your first major?
Yeah, they
so like in 1989.
No, this was 1982, okay, or in 83, and they literally said, and so like I told my friend Randall, it's like, he's like, what do you think is going to happen? I said, these buildings are coming down. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, they're coming down. So he's like, what about the fire department? I'm like, they're not going to go in. They're just going to cordon off the area and evacuate the entire area because these buildings are coming down. And it's so, to me, the 9/11 story that makes no sense is that they didn't do that they went into the building, that they told people to stay put at their desks, that the firefighters walking up the stairs to their doom also were kind of blocking the way for people to leave. The stupidity it doesn't take away from the bravery, but the stupidity of it was insane. So to me, there was no surprise whatsoever. Actually, the buildings stayed up a pretty good long time. Everyone could have gotten out if they just needed to follow like the procedure that everybody knew needed to be followed, and they just didn't do it. They treated the World Trade Center, the FDNY treated the World Trade Center disaster as if it was just a fire in a building, like it was happening in a 6-story tenement in Harlem, as opposed to a 110-story, quarter of a mile high, colossus where you couldn't, the ladders couldn't reach. You can't get people out the windows. You can't land on the roof. There's no contiguous stairwell all the way down.
Wow.
It's like they were.
So there were
idiots.
that many flaws to the Trade Center buildings. That many, like they didn't think about the redundancies.
No, it was a catastrophe waiting to happen.
It
was always going to. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did that pass building code? Like New York doesn't have codes to.
So you know how Mayor Adams is corrupt? He's not the first one. Basically,
strange. In New York City?
I know you'd never expect that. So some fat envelopes traded hands. In New York City, there are 3 loci of power, politically and economically: Wall Street, the NYPD, and the real estate industry. The real estate people get what they want, and they make sure it happens. So that's what happened. So anyway, that's the answer to your question.
So this is this big cinder block medical college.
This is just a block. You know how these buildings in these countries are built. It's just poured concrete, right?
Yes, poured concrete and cinder block. And so less fire, as we can see. God help those 242 souls, and rest in peace. Horrible. What a horrible story to wake up to in the morning. But Robbie wants to weigh in on this because he's making the full-blown comment of ground all Boeing jets. So Robbie, but you don't know, Robbie. We don't know yet if it was a manufacturing flaw. We don't know if it
I've
was
got to
human
say,
error.
I say, you know, in
We don't
France
know.
they say cherchez la femme, look for the woman. I say look for Air India. Let me tell my Air India story. So I flew New York to Mumbai and direct, and it was a miserable experience, one of the worst airlines I've ever been on. And like the seat cushion was flat up like a pancake, like Chris Christie had been sitting on it for like 10 years. And it was like, you know, your ass is sore after 12 hours on a direct flight. Anyway, I arrived. I was walking behind the pilot and the co-pilot. The pilot was Indian. The co-pilot was American, and he was being trained by his Indian counterpart. And I overheard the American pilot saying, "Do you guys always do this kind of thing?" And the pilot goes, "Oh yeah, it's totally normal. We're not like Americans. We're not fancy." And then the American guy says, "Yeah, but it's unsafe to use duct tape on a windshield crack in the cockpit. Like we shouldn't have flown." And it's like, and the pilot goes, "We do this all the time. You're not in America anymore." Air India.
Oh my God.
It's wild. I can only imagine. Now, were you in New York when 9/11 happened, Ted?
I lived in New York. I had a meeting in Philadelphia that day. So when it happened, I was on a train on an Amtrak. I know that's not right. I was on New Jersey Transit between New York City and Princeton.
Philly.
Princeton.
Oh.
And then we got out of was it Princeton? Yeah, I think it was Princeton. We got out there to take the cheapy way to Philadelphia, which is using SEPTA Regional Transit. And I got the call from my then wife on my cell phone, and she said, "Oh, the World Trade Center's just been hit. I'm watching CNN." And then as she was watching, the second plane got hit. So I was like relaying the info to other people on the train, because this was 2001 and not everybody had a cell phone.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it was so. And then it was a weird day, and I got back to New York at about 4:00 in the afternoon. Got to Newark, and then I was on the very first conveyance allowed back into New York City. So which was a PATH train, which is regional subway from New Jersey to New York. And it was crazy because we got the picture postcard view of Lower Manhattan. So everybody's on the right side of the train looking at Lower Manhattan from, and just the flames were still 40 to 50 stories high. And it was a wild day. So I was not, I was and I wasn't is the short version of the story.
Gotcha. Now, I also have a question for you, because it seems like this just kind of feeds into the image. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. America doesn't think big anymore. Like, we don't do big things anymore. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Boeing, the premier American airline, seems to have problems. Doors falling off mid-flight. Sometimes planes just kind of cartwheel. I mean, if you were President Rall, what would you do to fix Boeing and restore that big vision of America? Because it seems like, in a lot of ways, it seems like our best days are kind of behind us. But I don't think that they have to be, from a government standpoint and from a business standpoint.
They never have to be. No.
What can we do to fix it?
I mean, it's a huge question, Robbie. But I mean, first of all, I have to say,
you're a smart dude, so I'm putting you on the spot.
I think essential services and essential industries, and Boeing is an essential industry to the United States, right? We can't do without it. It's a major defense contractor. It's a major producer of civilian aviation. It needs to be nationalized. I think it should be owned by the government so that there's no longer any kind of profit incentive at all. It shouldn't matter. We need these planes, whether they're profitable to make or not. I mean, a lot of Boeing's problems have come down to cost cutting and skimping on safety in order to save a few bucks here and there. I mean, the Ethiopia flight that went down, and the other one,
Lion Air,
in Thailand, the Malaysian airline, both of those, the pilots they basically changed the controls without telling the pilots, and the pilots had been trained on iPads.
It was Yeah, it was the MCAS system. Boeing made some software changes to the MCAS system that didn't align with what the pilots were trained on, which was on the iPad and in flight simulator only. Nobody was able to even train on the actual jet. And the MCAS system, what it did was it overrode what the human pilot told it to do, because it was programmed to respond a certain way. So it's AI. Well, it wasn't AI, but it was, theoretically, this is the idea of why people are afraid of AI, is that it's going to outthink the human and be wrong. And that's basically what happened.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I mean, it's sort of like sometimes if you've ever driven a car that has like the auto guide feature, where
I have that in my car.
If it starts to drift off to the left or to the right too much, it will correct you. The steering wheel will adjust automatically.
Yes.
And it doesn't always know that, for example, there's a raccoon in the road and you're trying to not hit the raccoon.
Right.
And so it's just sort of like outthinking you. But you're right. You shouldn't hit the raccoon if you can avoid it without, losing control of your car. So it's like that. And then I think there's also a tremendous need to, to just again, it shouldn't be about profits. We need high-speed rail, whether or not it's profitable or not. We need colleges and universities, whether they're profitable or not. Anything that's an essential service for a society should not be subject to profits. Hospitals should not be a for-profit industry. I don't have no problem with a bunch of other stuff that we don't need. The entertainment industry totally can be for profit. Stereo components, totally for profit, no problem. But when you get into the essentials of life, it just shouldn't be about that, because it becomes about short-term profit. Look, they cut all these corners that the plane that the Alaska Air that like had the door plug problem. Yeah, that was a cutting corners thing, and the engineers had been complaining about it for years. Like you're trimming back safety protocols. Boeing used to be like an ace company.
Yeah, and the thing is, I just don't understand it. No, I don't travel as much as y'all do, and I'm here in the middle of nowhere, Montana. I don't know why we don't have a rail going from Kalispell to New York. We should.
Me neither.
We should have a rail going from New York to Seattle. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
But like, how long has that airport been shut down there in New York City? Like that, just for months. I mean, how long does it take to build a runway? It's just like we can't do anything anymore. And I think it's by design.
I think about that. Like, Robbie, here in New York City, there was a subway line. We used to call it the Tunnel to Nowhere. It cost billions of dollars to build 1 mile of this track.
Oh my God.
And it took, I think, 45 years. Okay.
What?
Meanwhile, if you look at the origin story of the New York City subway, the first lines, which, are like, they run all the way from Manhattan to the Bronx and, all over the place. They did them in about 18 months, the whole thing, no muss, no fuss. It's like granted, there's more density, there's more stuff to worry about. There's more buildings to go around and there's more politics. But yeah, I mean, you look back fondly at people like Robert Moses, who were just builders, and they like muscled through, and they're like, we just got to do this. And, we'll make some mistakes along the way, but whatever. I mean, you need the ambition, but you need to give someone the power to do it.
Right.
That's why China can do things. Because like, if President Xi tells an engineer, oh, I want to see this dam, and like,
get this shit done. Build this dam now.
It takes, like, I don't care how much it costs. I don't care who you annoy.
Well,
you just do it.
Well, they propped up like 2,000 makeshift COVID hospitals.
Yeah.
That in like a week.
Yep.
So
because it's
there's
China.
that.
They can do that.
They can do that. So all right, we got to move on though.
Last question. So is the problem, is it government or is it business or is it the incestual relationship between both?
That last one. Yeah, because if there's an incestuous relationship, then there's no police, right? I mean, if it's private industry, then the government is supposed to regulate that company, but they're not regulating if they're like collecting bribes, aka campaign donations. So
So, all right.
Yeah.
We'll leave that topic there. We got to move on. Burn through these next ones real quickly.
Let's do it. All right. Here we go. David Hogg. I like this story. The vice chair of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, says that he will step down from his post because the party voted to force him to run again. David Hogg, 25 years old, became a lightning rod for criticism after he told the New York Times a couple of months ago that he wanted to spend millions of dollars on primaries through a separate group called Leaders We Deserve. And the idea was to primary out older Democrats like, Biden and Nancy Pelosi types. He was trying to raise $20 million in order to do that. In his letter, he said, I came into this role to play a positive role in creating the change our party needs. It's clear that there's a fundamental disagreement about the role of a vice chair, and it's okay to have disagreements. What isn't okay is allowing this to remain our focus when there's so much more we need to be focused on. So David Hogg, for people who forget, survived the mass shooting at
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was basically one of the I arguably would say the most annoying person to have survived that mass shooting. Became a very eloquent spokesman, went to Harvard, and basically wormed his way into Democratic Party politics through his Twitter following, and then ended up and he got appointed to the DNC as a 25-year-old vice chair. As part of joining the DNC, he said, I'll join, but I can still do whatever I want, endorse candidates. I don't have to follow the party line. And they said, okay. So then he did that, and they got pissed. Now, I want to be really clear. A, David Hogg is annoying. B, David Hogg is an ageist. And you don't just primary people out just because they're old. If they're ineffectual, they're ineffectual whether they're young, middle-aged, or old. C, Democratic Party politics are always toxic, and he had to know that going into it.
But he's like 12.
That's true. But all that said, this all goes to show the DNC always has to have their thumb on the scale, no matter what. They can't help themselves. They say, okay, oh yeah, you want to do your own thing? You can do your own thing, David. Oh, what are you doing? You're doing your own thing. Oh shit, we hate you. Okay,
we don't like that.
I know. Oh, I guess. Oh, you can say. Oh, well, actually, we're going to make you run for your.
That's
old
not
job
how
again.
we do things, Ted. That's basically what they say. They're like, yeah, come in. Everybody's welcome. Diversity, thought, whatever. Everybody, you're welcome. Come in here, Gen Zer. Come here.
So
and then they're like, wait a minute, Gen Z.
This is a clash between like douchebag come lately and mega shitheads from OG shitheads who've been like fucking up the Democratic Party for decades and are just continuing to do it.
I can't believe I'm about to defend David Hogg because, like you said, point 1, 2, and 3, he's annoying, he's young, and I feel like there's a lot of grift energy,
mega grift,
coming from this kid.
Well, not to mention the survivor thing, right? Like, are you really a survivor? If you were there, you weren't shot at, you just ran away.
Right.
And like, okay, it's
a
traumatic experience. But a survivor to me is someone who took a bullet and recovered. That's me.
Like,
it's like, are you a Holocaust survivor because you lived on a farm in France all throughout World War II and never got caught? I'm like, not really.
Unless you were at Auschwitz.
Not like my grandfather, Buchenwald, 6 months. That's a survivor.
Unless you were at Auschwitz and managed to survive and tell it, that's a survivor. But, okay, fine, whatever. David Hogg for all intents and purposes. But still, I get big grift energy coming from this young man. However,
he got out-grifted.
I'm going to defend him. I can't believe I'm doing this because I just find like he has like a really smug air about him.
He's very punchable. I would say shootable, but someone tried to almost do that.
Oh, he's just got one of those faces and the vibe. Okay, so fine. Let's establish Manila not like Hogg. Okay, fine. But I'm going to defend him because in his defense, it's that the DNC, obviously, with the end result of the 24 elections, obviously the DNC ain't doing something right, ain't doing a lot of things right. let's point to the cold dead hands of my Senator Dianne Feinstein that literally hung on to her seat until the day she died. Like they couldn't get her out of office. They wanted to.
Yeah, but
they
in
tried.
fairness, Manila, she was sharp as a tack until the moment she died.
That's right.
She was like, she was still serving her country as like a doorstop.
She was
a paperweight.
She was obviously one of
she would have been
one
she
of
was
the
a
chairs.
really good planter.
Ted, she was one of the chairs of the Senate. What is it? It's like the technology group. I forget what it's called, what they call it.
Hilarious.
She was, questioning Mark Zuckerberg a number of times about the Facebook until the day she died. And I'm not sure she ever learned how to use it. But anyway, that is my example there as to why the youth, like even if it's David Hogg, is necessary to come into the DNC to perhaps gain a semblance of the Democratic Party that they were maybe in the JFK, RFK days, maybe some semblance of returning to caring about the working class, maybe some semblance of caring about Medicare for all, stuff like that young people care about, college education, stuff that young people care about. I mean, should you need to pay $200,000 to get a 4-year degree? Or these are the things that Gen Zers care about, and their representation matters. And that's the irony at the DNC is they're like, representation matters. It matters. That's why we could only have one chair for this that's male, and then the other chair, the other chair is reserved. One chair is reserved for female, and the other chair can be open to whoever wins. And they're trying to get him out based on a technicality of that. They're like, well, we can't have 2 chair people be males, even though one of them is a black male. Don't know if that gives him some DEI points at the DNC, but David Hogg is a straight cis white male.
Wait, I was going to say, isn't he gay?
David Hogg? I don't think so.
No, I thought he was.
No, I think he's this plain old straight white kid from Florida.
No.
So the DNC is trying to ouster him based on that, which is the irony, because they're like, we care about young people. We want to hear their thoughts. And this kid wants to usher in. I agree with his ageism, because Ted, we're ageist too. We're like, there are certain things that come with ageism, and you cannot deny that Joe Biden being 104 or Dianne Feinstein being 137 before she finally vacated office one way or another. There are things that come with being old, and
no doubt,
David
Manila,
Hogg is
but
right.
that's the thing is, pardon me if I've missed it, but I haven't heard David sort of thread the needle between people who are senile and can't do and ineffectual.
Right, he's
like
just
Biden
saying old.
Was. He's saying older, and the impression, when someone who's 25 couldn't be wetter behind the ears if he'd just gone over Niagara Falls. He says that, it says like, like anyone who's old, he means like 32-year-olds.
I'm old to him. I'm 20 years older than him.
Yeah,
I'm old enough to be his mother.
I'm ancient. I'm a fossil to him. So,
right.
It's like, so if he was saying like, listen, we need to get out ineffectual people who, in some cases are too old. No argument here. But he's not. He hasn't been clear on that.
He's made a shit case for why the age part matters, and he probably should work on that delivery a little bit about these are the things that come, my concerns associated with age related time in office.
He did go to Harvard. There. Presumably, he knows how to speak clearly. So if he had it to say, presumably he'd know how to say it, right?
He got into Harvard because he was a Parkland survivor.
Totally. Yeah.
And I would love to see what his high school records were, because he strikes me as a little bit of a derpy kid that's kind of like a bro. And then
Agreed.
He grifted on the, so.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
That was my take as well. All right, let's keep going here. And then last, but not last,
No.
penultimately last, Israel appears to be preparing to launch an attack on Iran. That, according to officials in the U.S. and Europe.
World War III. World War III.
Trump, yeah, what could go wrong? Trump had threatened to do the attack, but I kind of doubted seriously that was going to happen. Anyway, the concern about a potential Israeli strike and the prospect that Iran could retaliate led the U.S. to withdraw all of its diplomats from Iraq and authorize the voluntary departure of U.S. military family members from the Middle East from places like Bahrain. It's unclear how extensive an attack Israel might be preparing, if in fact they do, but Netanyahu is pressuring Trump to allow Israel to attack. Trump waved off another plan to attack a few months ago, saying that he wanted a chance to negotiate a nuke plan with Iran that would put an end to any possibility of a nuclear weapons program. 2 weeks ago, Trump warned Netanyahu not to do this while negotiations were underway. It's not clear exactly what Trump has said to Bibi this time, but apparently Trump is a little bit less optimistic about the peace negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. So it might be that this is happening. Between you and me, I'm 60-40 thinking there will be no attack. This is all just part of Trump's usual technique of blustering and threatening to try to make negotiations and talks go his way. He does it in every respect. He did it with, the Chinese about the tariffs. He just always screams and yells and says, I'll do whatever to get my way. So, it's like, okay, Iranians, you don't want to play nice. Fuck you.
Well,
I'll let Bibi have his way and bomb you.
Yes.
But
so here's my
it could
thing,
happen, but I doubt it.
Last night, deep into the night, well into the night, not deep, well into the night when most people are having dinner and chilling in front of the TV, 8, 9 o'clock at night, Marco Rubio announced that he is clearing out all all American embassy workers out of Baghdad and all adjoining countries, nearby areas. That's very suspect to me. Marco Rubio sent out an emergency cable that says, you all need to come home. So that's very concerning because that tells me that there sounds like there's going to be an imminent strike that the U.S. knows about and is not saying it. If you're clearing out embassy staff from neighboring towns, countries, cities, neighboring Iran in the general vicinity, that to me tells me that somebody gave Bibi the green light, or not even that. I feel like Bibi made the decision and there's no stopping him. Thus, Marco Rubio having to issue an evacuation order to embassy workers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very suspect about what's going to happen next in the next, 48 hours. And I suspect that Mossad is working diligently right now to figure out exactly where they're going to strike. But I think something is afoot.
Quick ad. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. The smooth medium roast and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus. No crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. All right, we have one more story. Today is Loving Day. Loving Day commemorates the landmark 1967 Loving versus Virginia Supreme Court decision, and there's also a movie called Loving, that legalized interracial marriage in the U.S. Loving Day is a global day of visibility, education, and community, and particularly significant for interracial couples and multiracial families. The freedom to marry or not to marry a person of another race resides with the individual and cannot be infringed by the state. It is hard to imagine now that there was a time when this statement was not true. This, however, was the reality in America in a number of states before 1967. On June 12th, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down laws in several states that banned interracial marriage. This was sparked by Loving versus Virginia, a court case involving Richard and Mildred Loving, who were an interracial couple. He was white, she was black, from Virginia, who married in 1958. Mildred and Richard started out as childhood friends, and over the years, their friendship became a love affair. On her 18th birthday in 1958, they got married in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks later, they were arrested by the authorities. They were unaware that the state where they resided considered interracial marriage to be illegal. Pleading guilty, they left Virginia. They moved to D.C., where they pursued legal action by writing a plea to Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. This case eventually went to the ACLU, and the Supreme Court ultimately ruled in their favor. After that, they went back home to Virginia. They settled with their 3 kids. They fought back against the laws that forbid their partnership and ultimately won the right to marry. They changed the lives of millions of Americans, including me, Ted Rall.
And me.
I married an Asian woman. That would have been illegal in certain states.
I live in Virginia.
1967. That's true.
I'm married to a big old honky.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I want to be clear. It was not like, you could have gotten interracially married in Ohio, let's say, back then.
You could or couldn't?
Could.
In the 50s.
But the point is that the fact that there were any states where that was not the case was frankly an abomination. And it's, it's unbelievable that it took so long for this insane vestige of, slavery and everything to be abolished.
And I'm going to pop on producer Robbie again because he and his family, they are the modern day Lovings. And
we are.
And Robbie, you guys fled Florida for that reason, right? To go to Montana because you married a dark-skinned woman.
I did. So I brought her to the whitest state in the union. So that just makes the most sense.
Ron DeSantis.
Well,
That's right.
Yeah. It's fun. I married up for sure. I don't know why the hell she decided to marry me, but she did. Was not her best life decision.
But it was for you.
When I got married, there was a Latina woman who worked in my office when I worked in an office, and she said, you married up. I said, what do you mean? She goes, oh, in America, she was very serious. She's like, the only way a white guy can marry up is by marrying an Asian. I was like, what are you talking about, woman? It was just so, and I was like, but you're Latina. Like, are you saying? And she's like, oh yeah, if you married me, you'd be marrying down. I'm like, what?
Weird. So
but people have these ideas.
Now, I'll tell you what, our wedding, it was either going to be the biggest party of all time or devolve into a race riot. It was going to be one of the two things. And it
Maybe both.
Well, I mean, everyone got along great. It was a lot of fun. Like my family, like they're a bunch of rednecks. Kiz's family, obviously not rednecks. And so we had no idea what the hell was going to happen. And it was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
when you introduced her to your family?
My grandmother would not let her.
And I'm not asking the other way around because
Sure.
Black people are really welcoming. That's never been an issue as far as I'm concerned. Like I've walked in, I've been like the only white person in the Black bar. No muss, no fuss. The other way around. So how'd it go? So
my wife was not allowed in my grandmother's house.
Oh wow.
I mean, so she was not allowed to come in. So if it was on Rumble, I would tell y'all what she said. But we're on YouTube, so right now. So she said, "No, you ain't going to bring that into my house," and she did not say in. Mm-hmm. And my wife's mama, she had some concerns about her marrying me because she grew up in the 50s and days of segregation and stuff. Very distrustful of white people. So it's kind of a little bit on both ends. Wow. And so we went for a walk. And so she was talking to me about the concerns that she had. And I told her, I said, with all due respect, ma'am, I'm marrying your daughter, not you. And I was like, so no, I understand. Fair. And so, but fast forward though, me and my mother-in-law, we have I love her to death. She says that I am her favorite white person, which I'm glad about. She's actually gone as far as to say, "You ain't white, you're black." And I said, "No, I'm pretty sure I'm white." But she just basically, that's just how she just kind of pigeonholed me in.
Well, remember at the time they called Bill Clinton the blackest president America had ever had.
Well, I mean, no, really, I mean, the media's behind a lot of this crap. They want to just keep racial friction and stuff alive for for clicks. I mean, and the government does too. Like, they want people fighting each other stuff that frankly doesn't matter. Like, who the hell? What difference does it make what color you are? Racism is the dumbest thing on the face of the earth, and I catch a lot of that flack because of my status on immigration. It has nothing to do with what color you are. That I'm probably being here illegally.
Your status. It's not, you have a problem with status. Correct.
It's not a racial thing. I mean, in the Bible, Moses, he married an Ethiopian, and his brother and his sister complained about it, and God gave him leprosy. So, I mean, God has no problem with interracial marriage either. So, King David, his grandmother was a Moabite. So, people try to say that the Bible teaches racism. They'll know how they're talking about, because we're all one blood. We're all created equal in the image of God. There's nothing dumber than racism. And I wish to God we just put it to bed.
Yeah. So on this day in history, this is Loving Day. And now, Ted, if you drive all over Virginia, you'll find signs that, that it's on the license plate. It says Virginia is for lovers. This is a nod to this couple, the Lovings, which is that true? Very, very, yeah, that's why they call it Virginia is for lovers, because they kind of capitalized on it.
They were just sluts.
Because all the hoes live here, Ted. It's Northern Virginia.
The hoe bags.
All the hoe bags and skanks and what do they call the men?
The putas,
Gen Zers?
man whores.
They call them fuck boys. That's what the younger kids call
and the rent boys.
Yeah. That's all of that is here in Northern Virginia. No,
I had no idea where that came from. That whole Virginia is for lovers.
Virginia is for lovers because it's the Loving case obviously made this a federal thing, thanks to RFK
God,
Jr.
The ACLU must have just loved it when they came across this case, because they'd been looking to challenge this, and it's like, here's this couple who were, they were really truly like, picture perfect for this, but the name. Oh my God! They must have been like,
the
"Are
name
you kidding?" Loving versus Virginia. I mean, it's from God. Like,
you could not have like written a script better.
No.
Childhood friends, like literally childhood friends from the neighborhood. Like you couldn't have dreamed up a better case to make this a media sensation across the country when TVs were just becoming the norm.
And he was a very like laconic, like sort of man of few words, and she was like sassy and
he was killed in a car wreck like 10 years after that happened, and then she never remarried, and so it was just.
Is that what happened to Richard Loving?
Yeah,
he got killed. Sad! I didn't know.
He got killed. He got killed. I mean, Loving Day is it's the day that my wife.
They didn't have seatbelt laws back then.
No, it's my entire family celebrates it, and by my entire family I mean my wife, me, and our 2 kids, because for us it's important. Just kind of like with the 2 of y'all. It's just, I guess that for us it's a little bit different because we're from the South. It also
opened up the door to this, by the way, which is why gay marriage is allowed now, because under the precedent that was set.
Not really. I mean, you don't get to pick what color you're born. You do get to pick who you have sex with. So there is that.
I don't know about that.
Well, you can pick. It's certainly true. You can pick who you have sex
100%.
But you can also pick who you have sex with and decide that you're not going to have sex with members of another race, would be the miscegenation argument, right? But I mean,
I completely agree.
The point is you love who you love, and you're attracted to who you're attracted to. And and that's the point of like the gay marriage decision, right? It's like, that's not your
Well, believe it or not, that
being attracted to.
Well, no. The point is the anti-miscegenation laws is that the point is the state has no business telling you who you can or cannot marry, provided they're over 18 years old.
Considering that the state issues marriage licenses, they've made it their business.
But it shouldn't. I mean, marriage is a religious institution between one man and one woman, and the state has no business.
we've turned marriage into obviously a paperwork trail. That's what it is, and
Yeah.
a means
for
for,
taxes.
taxation.
Because it's about property rights and taxation.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's right.
I mean, the government has no business in it, and that's my opinion. But it is what it is.
Well, you
But
can
yeah,
certainly
this
be
is
married
a
in a
nice day in
church. I
history.
think, I mean, there are definitely churches that will marry you without a marriage license.
It depends
Not
on the
most,
preacher.
though. Mhm.
I mean, some preachers, like there's some preachers that I know, if you have a marriage license, they won't marry you. They're like, no, the state's infringing on outside of its authority. As I have the authority to
There
do
it
this, and so it just really just kind of depends on what is it you're doing. But I mean, when a gay marriage though, when that started being a thing, kind of ties in with the whole story about the Southern Baptists. A lot of the gays thought the blacks would be all in favor of this because of the pushback against interracial marriage, and it really kind of backfired. At least where I was from, it's like, I didn't get to pick to be black. You get to pick your schlong in. So there is a difference, and so it really kind of backfired on them.
Yeah. So this is how the ruling came down.
Yeah, it was unanimous.
Well, it's funny.
Yep.
There's judges on that panel that were named black and white.
Yeah, Hugo Black.
The whole case, Ted, could not have been scripted any better. There are judges named black and white. The couple's name is Loving. There's just everything about it, like everything, it just made for TV. All right,
guys, we're
so
way over.
That's it.
Over an hour and a half. What
Over's
are we doing
good.
tomorrow?
We're talking.
What are we doing tomorrow?
Oh, tomorrow we have Susan
Pie.
Pie.
Oh,
We're doing immigration with Susan.
My
And
favorite
we get
topic.
There's nothing going
10:30.
on in immigration, so that's going to be kind of boring.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
we're bringing Susan on to pick her brain about the legalities of stuff because, this week Trump's travel ban came into effect. 12 nations are complete travel bans. 6 others, including theoretically my relatives in Laos, can't come visit me. Theoretically.
Thank God for that. I for one, sleep safer at night knowing that.
That's right. So,
All hail
but they're just going to
President
plot
Trump.
their revenge. All the Lao people are just going to plot another 9/11 like they masterminded in 2001.
I think the Laotians have a state of their own since they are such a small percentage of the global population, and that they should just stay there.
They can't come visit.
No, just they're dangerous, Manila. I mean, you just got to put them on one big Indian reservation, just lock them in. They can't leave.
There is only like 6.5 million of them in that country. So
Maybe if you just gave them like a landlocked nation, then surround it with landmines, and then you could just contain it.
I wonder if the U.S. has ever thought about that. All right, guys, that does it for us. We'll be back tomorrow talking about immigration. We're gonna make Robbie, if he pops on, be nice to Susan Pie.
Yeah,
I'm always nice.
Susan
that's not
does
true.
know the law, unlike any of us 3 morons. Susan actually does know the law and works in this industry. So we're going to pick her brain about immigration. That's going to be the hot topic tomorrow. And she'll bring her expertise. So tune in tomorrow. We're back at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Adios, amigos.
I just stay in
Thanks.
producer
Bye.
land.
Okay.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.